right, let's do it. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our trade show engagement webinar in 2024 as we see that the pandemic is further and further in our rearview mirror and trade shows are kind of fully up and running and going. We thought this would be a good time to talk about getting refocused on trade shows and marketing around it. My name is Nate. I'm the CEO of Ideation, and I'm here with Stacy Garrett, who is now our VP of Sales and Marketing here at Ideation. She's a 24-year veteran in promotional marketing. We call her the queen of promotional marketing, and that includes trade shows. So welcome, Stacy.
Thank you so much, Nate.
A couple housekeeping things before we get started. We would love for you guys to use the Q&A feature at the top to put in any questions that you might have. If we have time for Q&A afterwards, we will for sure go through those and answer them. We have Takaya, our amazing marketing coordinator, monitoring that. And so if she sees any in the middle of our talk that are relevant to what we're talking about, then she may jump in and bring those up. If you want to just chat about what we're talking about, make a comment, a cheer, if you want to just have dialogue, use the chat feature for that, and we'll be looking at that as well. If you have complaints about what we're doing today, you can send those to Stacy. So,
oh, great.
All right. So with that being said, let's get started. Stacy, I think the first place that we want to start in is pre-show marketing, which is often overlooked, but is really a critical phase in setting the stage for a successful trade show. So let's start with that. What are some innovative ways to use the show attendee list for driving traffic to our booths?
Yeah, I think this is definitely underutilized. One of the things, well, there's several things that I've seen over the years that have been very effective, but also some things that are maybe not as effective. So we had a client recently that was doing a bunch of engagement in their booth, the Housing Connector, actually out of Seattle, a really cool nonprofit. And they were trying to drive traffic for this engagement. So they did a pre-show email blast. And it was pretty simple, straightforward, just built some mystery around what was going to be happening in the booth so that people were intrigued enough to make sure to stop by their booth in advance. Now, on the other side of that, most of our team actually recently went to a trade show in Vegas where there were thousands of booths, like not 50, not 100, thousands of booths. And we all were inundated with emails. So it's finding that balance, because really most of us ended up not even paying attention to the emails that were coming in, not even the ones that we probably would have thought relevant, because we were so overwhelmed. Like it just was too many emails all at one time. So it's finding a balance. But if you get an attendee list, doing a pre-show email to help drive some excitement and energy around visiting your booth, giving them a call to action to come visit. Worst case scenario, it does get lost in the clutter, but you might get a few people that actually act on that or paid attention to the email, worst case scenario.
Okay, so with that being said, a bunch of clutter, competing for attention, the fear of the email annoyance that somebody might have. What are some other ways that companies can connect with the people attending the trade show to drive traffic to their booth?
I mean, outside of pulling someone, going directly and forcing them to get there, there's not a lot you can do, but there are some cool direct mail pieces you can do if you have the list in advance. Maybe you don't send it to all attendees because some events, let's get real, are just too many people for that. But if you can identify some clearly targeted potential customers and prospects, or even actual customers, you can do a pre-mailing. So things that we've seen done, we've seen like a playing card where you send one card from a deck and tell them to come by to get the whole deck of cards. Maybe there's a gaming theme within the booth. We've seen where keys were sent that can be used to unlock a box. So they are driven to try and go to your event or go to your booth to try and unlock this box for some great prize. So that's another idea. We've also seen scratch it tickets. So a scratch card that's custom for your business and call to action, where they can scratch it off for a chance to win at the booth. There's a lot of things you can do with some pre-show mailings, depending on what you're going to do in the booth. We've done like send shoelaces and have them come for a chance to win a pair of custom tennis shoes, or maybe it's a custom pair of Nikes. Like you give the shoelaces as that, like, ooh, I want to enter to win. And you're giving them something memorable, even if they don't come to your booth.
Yeah, those are incredible ideas. The thing that stands out to me, one, the playing card idea, great for like a Las Vegas trade show, obviously. And then they're all like the playing cards are small, the keys are small, the scratch off card is one idea that I know we've done before. And so they're all inexpensive to do, inexpensive to mail, so you can really make a big bang pre-show without spending a lot of money.
Yeah, actually,
Okay.
the scratch cards you can do even as a postcard. So you don't even
Right.
have like envelopes or anything like that. It's pretty simple pre-event connection with people.
Yeah. Okay, so we've done the pre-show thing. We've talked about some marketing ideas around getting people excited about you being there, getting people to your booth. Let's talk about the design, the feel of the booth, how to make it inviting, how to make it attractive for somebody to stop and spend time at.
Yeah, so that is something that will depend a lot on the size and budget, but I have a few tips to just make it so that you are little things you can think about when you are doing a trade show. Now, there's so many different types of trade shows, ones that are just a tabletop, to the trade shows we do for clients that they have 40 by 40 booths. So this is more just little niblets that hopefully will make your next design of your booth a little more inviting. So one is just to make it more inviting by not putting barriers that keep people from coming in the booth. So the typical thing people generally will do is they'll put a table right in the entrance to the booth to keep anybody from coming in, but that also keeps them from interacting with your team that's there. So make it more inviting. Put that table, maybe it's off to the side, maybe it's at a different angle so that people can still come in and interact with your team that's there. So make it inviting. Don't block people from coming in. It is, I mean, you'll go to a trade show now and you'll see how many of them do that. And the team that's working the booth will be right behind that table, almost like, come kind of close, but not too close. Now, another one is to keep it simple. You know what it's like when you're at a trade show. If you put tons of content for them to be able to have to read, they're not going to read it. You have just a second. So keep your design of your booth, the information really simple so that it gets them curious enough to come in and interact. Also, make it obvious who works in the booth. So obviously we're in the world of promotional products, so we do a lot of uniforms for people that are attending trade shows. But part of the reason for that is it's really important. If you're at a big event, maybe you have a big booth. How do you tell who works there and who doesn't work there? Again, we were just in Las Vegas at a trade show, and I had people coming up to me saying, "Do you work here? Do you work here?" I'm like, "No, I don't work here, but obviously the team needs to uniform a little bit better." And with that, I know it's not a popular opinion of a lot of people that work the trade show booths, but they're there to work. So this isn't a fashion show. I feel like making people really stand out as being part of your booth is super important so that if someone needs help, they know that they can get help. Sometimes, like, I've done lime green shirts for clients so that they are really obvious. Now, are they taking that off the second they leave the booth? Maybe, but we don't care about that. We're just wanting to make sure that the employees are easy to identify within the booth so that if someone really does have an important question, they know who to ask and they don't get frustrated with not being able to identify who's working in the booth. It's a little easier with smaller booths, but it's still important because what if you have a couple clients in there? How do you know that they are actually employees or not? So that's another. And then last little tip, this is probably a no-brainer, but make it professional feeling. It is what represents your brand. And like we just saw a trade show booth the other day on LinkedIn, and the backdrops had multiple different logos and different colorways, and they didn't line up, and they're like, it just was so, it was so scattered that really they probably would have been better off having less than have it more consistent than having a bunch of stuff that didn't match and just kind of felt thrown together. So I say, keep it professional. And you'll hear some of the things we're going to do for engagement that may seem like it's not that professional, but this is about just like, this is what's representing your brand. So make sure that your display and your booth and your team also represent that. And then lastly, super simple and something we're going to talk a lot about today is encourage engagement. Encourage people to have conversations, even if it's not about exactly what you do. Encourage those interactions and points of connection because you never know when that engagement can turn into something bigger.
Those are great, simple tips. Obviously, some common sense, but you get busy. You have salespeople that just are there to sell. They don't understand marketing. They don't understand branding. And so then, of course, like LinkedIn, you see a post with a wrinkled tablecloth, and you're like, oh my gosh. You know what I mean? So like 100% agree with you. And even though a lot of our marketing people and our clients with the best intents forward, they send the sales team off to a show and it just goes sideways. So awesome tips for that. You talked about engagement, encourage engagement. So let's go there. Most of our clients, that's typically when they're new to us, where they start to really engage us is because they're like, we need to call ideation for, the booth, for the giveaway, for the thing. And so the clients that have been with us longer, who understand the kind of full scope that we work, they do engage us for that pre-show stuff. So let's get into engagement. That's a lot of what we do. Can you give us a couple examples? Super simple to execute, easy to activate, especially with our help at Ideation, that are engaging booth activities a company can do?
Yeah, this is what I love so much.
I know, this is our favorite. Yeah, this is our favorite part.
I love when people do great activations within trade show booths. And again, depending on the budget, there's a huge range, but I'm going to give you some really simple ideas that can be expanded on to be, higher end or lower end. But one of the first things that encourages engagement is, this is going to sound really crazy, but just a simple guessing game. Give people a reason to slow down, stop, look at your booth, interact with you a little bit with a simple guessing game. So examples, like I did a safety conference, I've done a safety conference a lot, and I had a giant jar filled with orange earplugs. So safety related, orange, because that's our color. And I just had people guess. They put their guess in a box, and at the end I picked whoever was the closest guess. It is amazing to me how many people, it didn't even matter what the prize was, how many people want to guess. And then after the event, I've done this multiple times with different things, but after the event, I had so many people coming up to me again, asking what the number was. Not because they wanted to know if they won, but because they were just curious. They wanted to know if they were close, and I think we've all been there. Like we wonder how many jelly beans are in that jar. But notice I did earplugs. So like we have some customers on here that are in the cable world. Well, maybe you do a container. We've even talked about making it part of the display, like a plexiglass tall pillar, and have cable in there and have people guess how many feet of cable are on display. and use that as a way to interact with them. And it's interesting, but it ties back to your business. And so I love those kinds of interactive guessing games. Another that works super well is just a trivia question. I think it's best if it ties in with your business or what you do, or it's just an aha moment. Like if I were to do one where I was doing a trivia, maybe a question would be, how many promotional products can you put your logo on? And then it would be a trivia that people would guess. If you have a multi-day show, do 3 different trivias, and then there's a prize for the winner. So that's not expensive. It's just thinking about how can we tie that in with something that we offer, and make it so that people feel like they're engaging, but it's also helping educate them a little bit about your business. And hopefully, like the aha moments of, I didn't know that this was a possibility. I didn't know that you did that. I didn't know that you had, this many employees in that marketplace. Have like for some customers that are like a global company, make it feel very regional by asking questions that are specific of that market. So then you have the opportunity to remind them you're local without actually having to go, have things that are specifically with that region. So you can just ask questions related to it. So that's guessing games. I really love those. I mean, Nate, you, of course, I'm sure, love to be right on answers. And so you would be guessing even if you didn't want the prize.
It's also a great way to get opt-in data if you wanted to. So because you've got to follow up with them. So people have to write their name and their email and their phone number to win. And I also think of like you said, with people coming back wanting to know, like, you can set a time to be like, we're going to reveal the answers at 4 o'clock or whatever. And so then you get another stop by at the booth as well. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, we've actually done it where we've created a QR code for them to scan, and then we've done SurveyMonkey or just even a Microsoft form where they submit their guess. So depending on the tech savviness of the people at your event, like that's a great way to data collection. And then you have this at the end of the day, an Excel sheet that you can then sort and see who was the closest. Super simple, and we can kind of take care of all of those aspects of it. But it is just those like steps that get people to connect. Like in the mystery lip balm that we're going to be talking about here soon, we created a QR code and form for a client that was doing it, and the thank you message was actually a call to action about going to their URL and learning more about what they're doing in XYZ market. So this is something that, by doing it electronically, you also get a chance to give them a little additional messaging.
So one of the things that we mentioned in the pre-show was sending scratch-off postcards. We also use those, I know, for actual in-show engagement. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so scratch-off cards are super fun because, again, going right back to everybody likes to win. Who doesn't like to win, get a lottery ticket at Christmas? You're probably not going to win that $1, but it's still fun to do unless you're in the state of Hawaii where they don't have the lottery. But so it's super fun and engaging. And the things that are nice about giving out scratch-offs is you could put them in every attendee bag. So that could be part of your driving traffic to your booth. So you could put the scratch it in every attendee bag. They scratch it off and have a call to action to come to the booth. You also, another nice thing is you can control the winners. Like if you do one where you want 100 scratch offs and 90 of them are, sorry, try again, and 10% are, woohoo, you won. You get to control that. So it's really great for budgeting purposes. When you're trying to determine how much swag to do in an event, this is the max that you're going to give out, right? The other part about that is if you make the card have value outside of the scratch offs, you could actually, maybe the card has some value for down the road, a coupon, like invitation to an event, or even come to our our booth, fill out the back, and get entered into a, last chance drawing where all of those non-winners, the 90% or whatever percentage you decide, get a chance to win that prize. So you have that 10% plus one.
Yeah, that's fine. Awesome. Let's talk barcodes for prizes.
Yeah, we did
I've been doing this for 15 years. I've worked with you for 6.5. I don't even know what, I mean, this is something that you said we could talk about, and I don't know the details of it. So I'm fascinated to hear about it.
Yes. So barcode, we did this several years ago for Intel. They were doing a giant gaming show where they had 50,000 attendees. It was a crazy number of people. They obviously weren't going to get a bunch of people into their booth. They're not going to get 50,000 people into their booth, but they wanted to put something in every attendee bag to at least get some exposure and maybe create that sense of interest. So we created very simple, extremely inexpensive business card size cards, and we did a unique barcode on batches of them. So similar to your scratch card, but in this case, so we had 50,000 cards that we printed. Let's just say 49,000 of them were sorry, try again later. 1,000 of them were different barcodes with different prizes. So we had one that was a t-shirt, and that was maybe 300 of them. And then we had 500 that were a light up pen. And we had one that was a gaming system laptop. So this barcode, and at the time you couldn't get apps for your phone, or they weren't very accessible to scan a barcode. And let's be real, like we just learned yesterday, I can't scan a barcode on my phone. I have to download an app. So people come to your booth, and we actually, the client, because this is a big thing that they were doing, they bought barcode scanners, but now you could just use your phone. But they had a barcode scanner that would scan it and say what prize they won. And they'd go grab the prize, give it to the person. And the people that were sorry, try again later, they could have entered into a drawing. They did not do that, but they got them to come to their booth. And to be honest, their booth was really flippin' awesome. And so they stayed because it was all about gaming and cool stuff and technology around that. So they knew that if they could get people to their booth, that they would get them to stay. But this way they knew they had 1,000 things that they need to have on hand, and 300 t-shirts at the most, and 500 pens at the most. And and that's if everybody came to the booth. And this was over like a 5-day period. It was a great, super fun project. And really inexpensive because they printed a business card. We created the QR codes, we printed the business cards, we sent them to them sorted so that they could make sure that they knew which one was going to be the laptop so that it didn't get lost or, in the shuffle. And then the trade show entered them into each bag when they were stuffing the bags. So pretty inexpensive and easy, not totally easy, but completely doable.
Like so fun, so engaging. To me, it's a great way to control budget when you're like, we have this huge show. We don't there's 50,000 people. What's the percentage of those people that are going to come by my booth? It's still a huge number to buy, like you said, a bunch of things to hand out. And so you can still get the objective of having engagement, people stopping at your booth, probably spending more time at your booth as if you're just handing something over. And then also, still being able to have the things to give to people so that they can remember you when they walk away. So super, super smart.
Right. Yeah.
One of the things that is becoming kind of more in our world that we are seeing is the marriage of physical and digital. So tell us about some of the things you can do on the trade show floor that's more digital through different sites and redemption programs and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is something we are doing more of, and we just had a new option launched about, maybe a month ago. It is a site where you can predetermine what items you want as prizes or giveaways or gifts or attendee gifts, speaker gifts, you name it. You pick the items. They are printed on demand, so you don't have any inventory. You just send the person to that site. It is pre-populated with a logo that you want to be on each item. And then each person has the option to personalize it so that you don't have any inventory. If no one redeems, you are out, zero money, and people get to pick the item that they want. And some interesting research we've seen on this is that when people are given an option to select things, they actually, like, fewer people pick water bottles. And for all of you on this call that have ever been to an event, of course, you see lots of water bottles. We do lots of water bottles. But when people get to pick, they pick the things that they're most likely to use. So we recently did this with a handful of people to test it out. And I was shocked at how many yoga mats people picked. But great, I love it if that's something they actually want. So this is something, think about that as a way to engage with people. And this is going to touch on something we're going to talk about in a little bit, but the post-show follow-up. This package delivers after the event. It's produced once it's ordered and shipped to wherever they selected, which you don't get that information, but it just arrives on their doorstep and is a reminder of that interaction. So I did it in Las Vegas. I was testing it out. A bunch of us on this call did it. And I got a water bottle, which is ironic because I don't really need a water bottle, but look at the personalization. I did Queen Stacy on it. And I'm not going to lie, when a water bottle came in the mail and it had my name on it, I was a bit giddy. I mean, I was like, oh, I can't wait to use this. So that just like more interesting element, I think is something we're going to see even more of, because the other thing you don't have to worry about is storage at the show. That's always a problem.
500 yoga mats. Could you imagine if you were going to give away 500 yoga mats?
Well, and then the other part is getting it for people to take with them. Like,
Right.
are they going to take that with them if it's bulky? So this is something I think we're going to see more and more of. And there's also ways to do this with apparel. It's not as on demand, but it still is fairly on demand. So there are some new things that we're watching and doing that I think are going to change some of the engagement in trade shows as well.
I even love that idea if you're at a show and you have the giveaway items that you're giving away, but somebody, entices them to set an appointment right there. Then you send them to that site to get all the information for the follow-up, and then they get to select it. So you can use it as, for taking a meeting at the event right away, or something that's a little more VIP, more, than just somebody who you had a nice conversation with, that you could use that for as well. So that's super cool.
Yeah, and the personalization is just kind of a game changer because it's something you can't do very easily. You certainly can't do at a trade show for people that are just coming to your booth. So I think most of the people that did it, they were excited about the idea of putting their name or their daughter's name or their brother's name or their husband's, or something. Just, I saw one lady said, boss babe is what she put on her personalization. And now all of a sudden they've got logoed swag that feels like it's just for them. So
I know
when we'll keep watching
when you showed it to me, you even commented on how my smile on my face, that I was excited about it too. And
exactly.
across the pond, and I still got excited when you showed it to me. So totally get it. Okay, you and I could talk about this for hours and hours, so let's move along a little bit. But my favorite budget-friendly engagement that we do here, we've done it ourselves, we recommend it to customers, is the mystery lip balm. So before we move off this, I want you to talk about that.
Mystery lip balm. Anybody in here engaged with my mystery lip balm before? Raise your hand. You can just raise it with the click of the, yep, Arinda, of course. Yep, Carrie. Yes, Connie. Okay, so we've done it. Like I love mystery lip balm. And part of it again goes to that like desire to be right, the kind of mystery of it. Like what is it? What can I figure it out on my own? And so this works extremely well in a trade show setting, Because, well, when you're talking a lot, it is nice to have lip balm. I'm not going to lie. Like, I have a lot of lip balm and I carry it all the time, but I love when I get lip balm because I know that my lips are going to be dry, especially if you're in Las Vegas. But so why not make it so that it's something a little bit different? So we would do it as a mystery flavor, and we can come up with some really creative flavors. We did it one time for a Portland company, and we made it very Portland focused. The flavor was chocolate stout. I think that was it, chocolate stout. And the tie-in was they were actually trying to get some internal leads to bars, breweries, wineries, places like that. And so we come up with the creative flavor. We don't tell anybody about it. And we have people come to the booth and you give them the lip balm and they guess the flavor. So the most common way that we're doing that now is through QR code where they scan it, they go to this form, they enter the guess. You can put a lot of information in there. So you can do some promotion, give them hints, and they guess the flavor, and then that gets submitted. Now, I encourage people to any submission gets entered to win, because you don't want people to feel like, oh, well, I don't know what that is, I'm not even going to guess. I like to do it where you encourage people to guess as often as they would like. Scan that QR code, enter, 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 because that's when they're engaging with your brand. They're thinking about you. They're sitting in a class that's not even on the trade show floor, and they're sitting there putting lip balm on and wondering, do you think it's vanilla mint? Wait, is it s'mores? What's the flavor? And so they're thinking about you when you're not even in front of them. It's so powerful. And it is inexpensive. We're talking about $1 or less. There's always seasonal flavors. So there's always something new that can be done. So I love getting clues. If you're trying to drive traffic to your social, put clues on social that help people, like they're going to go to your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your whatever, and they're going to try and get a hint as to what it is. So some examples of doing this, we've actually done it as a direct mail piece. I've done it as trade show as well, but we've done it as a direct mail piece. And I had the VP of operations for a fairly large organization reach out to me because there were a couple people on her team that hadn't gotten the lip balm because they're not a customer of ours and they just don't order swag. And calling and saying, is there any way I could get a few more, because they're feeling left out? Everybody's talking about this lip balm and, I feel bad that they're being left out. Well, of course, I will send you an advertisement of mine. I'm happy to do that, right? That dollar piece, provided, she reached out to me. I've also had it where another customer of mine, again, for a large company, he never actually guessed. Never once guessed on the mystery flavor. Probably 4 months later, I was talking to him on the phone and he said, okay, you have to tell me, what was that flavor? And I was like, oh, I wasn't sure if you were even doing it. He goes, oh, are you kidding? I was out, my wife was checking in, I was having my kids, we all had our, this is this, we were all guessing. And so it provided me exposure and the company exposure beyond just the in-person dialogue that I was having at the time. We've seen it in a trade show situation. I did it once where the prize was a water bottle, not a super fancy, just a simple water bottle, because I really wanted to give away water bottles. So I wanted it to be a lot of giveaways. And I had people, this was pre-pandemic, mind you, I had people that were coming up to my booth with coworkers and saying, can they guess? I let them use my chapstick or my lip balm and to guess the flavor, can they guess? And I'm like, okay, so you guys have a very tight relationship here that you're willing to share lip balm with your coworker. Let me just give you your own. So, it's just more interesting that they're so intrigued with it. They're trying to get other people to participate in it. So you're getting that much more exposure. And again, for $1 or less. And we create the QR codes. We can help manage all of the hints and everything around that. It's mostly just about being thoughtful of it. And what I tell people is even if you get to the time of the event and things fall apart and you don't have the energy to manage this, a prize or whatever, then you're just handing out lip balm. So it's not the end of the world. You're still giving something that's useful. And I know a lot of you that are on this call do events a lot. Like, I know a lot of people give out lip balm. I totally get that. But do good lip balm, one, and make it so it's kind of interesting. So they choose yours over anybody else's. So that's the mystery lip balm. I'm happy to talk with anybody about this because it is such a fun engagement, and it can be transferred to things like air fresheners. Guess the scent of the air freshener. It can be transferred to like a scented candle, like small little candle, guess the scent of the candle, like whatever you can get to get people to just interact and be a part of the logoed merchandise. Yes, the Arinda still remembers. Arinda, do you remember what flavor it was? She's commenting in the chat. I'm nothing like putting her on the spot. Like for us, when we were doing ours, we actually a blueberry lemonade. That might have been the one that Ashley did. No, we did s'mores was the most recent one, and what it might have been, yeah. Anyway, we did s'mores was the most recent one, and it was tied around summer events and summer outings, and then the prize for just the the random drawing of all the guesses was an ideation cooler filled with s'mores fixins. So perfect for summer, and making it a little bit more like a fun little package to get. Not costly. It did not cost a lot of money. We paid more in postage on that. So for a trade show, it's perfect because your distribution is inexpensive.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. I think the key to that is make sure you have enough lip balm, unless you aren't grossed out by people sharing lip balm.
Yeah.
Okay, staying in the trade show booth, let's move to games and prizes, prize wheels and things like that. I think attention is the most valuable thing you can obtain at a trade show. How long can we keep people in front of our booth, in our booth, our eyeballs, our opportunity to talk to them, but they don't just do the wandering walk by, grab the pin or the thing on the table and walk by, because you had no opportunity to really talk to them, and which is really what this is all about, is how do we get people there. So talk to us about using fun games to create that engagement.
Yeah, I do love fun games. I don't know about anybody else, but I love spinning a prize wheel, not gonna lie. So we can do like lots of ways that you can interact with people through games in your booth. There's way back in the day, you always just saw putting greens. Anybody raise your hand if you've been used or seen a putting green at a trade show booth? Yeah, so very common, and a great engagement thing, because you've got people there for a few minutes trying their hand at winning, getting a hole in one. There's also like the hoop shoot, which isn't as commonly done because they're so bulky, but the hoop shoot is a fun one. Cornhole, yes, for sure. Cornhole is super fun. The problem with some of these is the real estate that they take up in the booth. So if you have a 10 by 10, sometimes you don't want to take up 4 by 10 of that for this interactive component. So that's one of the downfalls of those, is just the pure bulk of it. They've made some great new things that you can, that can be a little bit smaller. Tabletop cornhole, for example, maybe, or maybe the basketball hoop is a mini version, or something that doesn't take up quite as much real estate in the booth. But that's one of the downfalls of those bigger sporty type of things. I actually had a client for years that had a claw game that they did in the booth. So, for anybody that is well, I guess that was a child at some point, so all of us knows this claw game and how like fun it is, and you're sure you can get that item that you're dying to get at the top. So they had a claw game that we would provide the things that go in the claw game that people would pull out. And I've been to their events where they were activating that, and there's a line around the corner. The people in the booths by them love it because they're getting exposure, but it also is blocking their booth. So it's another way to just like create some engagement with, but that isn't expensive. It's very big. It has a crate that needs to ship. So logistics is tough for that, but you can do the point is a big range of things to do, more game type things in your booth. I happen to really like the like Plinko game and prize wheel. And part of the reason I like that is because I think it can be more effective at tying to things that you offer in your business. So one example, I was doing something years ago with Travel Portland, and they were having a big event to try and promote Portland and Portland, Oregon, for those of you that aren't on the West Coast. Well, we basically brainstormed on some of the key things they wanted to have people leave their booth with knowing about Portland. Breweries, the Powell's books, the coffee scene. We didn't do anything about strip clubs because we didn't think that was the right thing to promote. But Portland is known for that. So we identified things that they wanted to have as takeaways for the attendees at this booth, and we made those the prize wheel slots and items tied to that. So Powell's Books, which is a famous bookstore in Portland, they had bookmarks. For the breweries, it said, like, did you know that there are X number of breweries in Portland? And that was a bottle opener. So the prizes weren't like over the top. It was just educational at the same time as it was fun. So people, as they're watching the wheels spin, and you have a chance then, the nice thing about games is you have a chance while that wheel is spinning or that little disc is sliding down into the Plinko slots, you have a chance to engage with them about the show, what they do, who they are. Did you know that Portland had this many breweries? Did you know that we are have the largest independent bookshop? So you have that opportunity to engage with them. And then once they've won the prize, some of the barriers are kind of taken down because they just had fun and had some discussion with you. So lots of ways to make it tie in. I just like tying it in with what you're trying to get across, whether it's the Plinko game or the prize wheel or anything else. Tie it in with what you're trying to communicate at the show to just reinforce that messaging.
Awesome. So great ideas, amazing, simple ideas, really not very expensive to execute on. It just takes some preparation and some mindful execution and an amazing, fantastic promotional marketing agency to come alongside and help execute. So, okay, so we're through the show. We've talked about the pre-show. We've talked about getting ready for the show with your booth and making sure that it looks good. We've talked about engagement at the show. So now let's talk about the show's over. We're all back home, back in our offices, post-show follow-up. Give us some strategies that you would recommend for an effective follow-up that reinforces the trade show purpose and objectives and some of the things that happened during that show.
Yeah, so the most important thing is to do it. It's, there is a point where it's progress, not perfection at some point, but I think the best way to make sure that you are following up after a show is to have a plan before the show. Your marketing teams, a lot of you on here are the marketing teams, like, this, you're the ones that are thinking about it, but think about it in advance of the show, have it written out, have it already decided what that follow-up is going to be so that it's really easy to say go after the show is over. So have a plan. How are you going to divide and conquer? Because let's get real. you get back and your inbox is, to here with messages and things that you need to do. Like if you don't have it planned, then it's going to fall by the wayside. The other part of that, and this is a little more related to sales, is in the booth, and I have experienced this, I just experienced it last week. In the booth, if you make a commitment to do something, if someone on your team makes a commitment to do something, make sure the tools are in place so that they have the time and the encouragement to do it. So if they are talking to a client and the client says, well, I'm really interested in your, mobile phone service. Can you follow up with me with what the pricing structure looks like for a business my size? Actually do it. I know this is a no-brainer and most of you know this, but it doesn't get done. I mean, I have talked to leaders in booths. I gave a lot of business cards out last week with people that said they were going to send me info. Oh yeah, I'll get that to you tonight. Oh, I'll get that to you Friday. And they never do. And so the other part of that is that has the potential to actually harm your relationship with the client before it's even gotten started, because you've just shown them, you said you were going to do something and you didn't. So I think it's important to have a plan in advance, talk to the people that are going to be at the show, help them to make sure they know how important that follow-up is. And then I say, do it in a timely manner, because you want to capitalize on all the great stuff that has been put into, all the great time and energy that's put into the trade show. Make sure it actually turns into something. So those are my little pointers. Most of you know this, but it is a good reminder to plan it in advance of even attending the trade show.
Piggybacking on making it worthwhile going and all that stuff, can you share some ideas for sales teams and some marketing teams that are on there on what they can do to evaluate what worked and what didn't work at a show so that they can be better for the next shows?
Yeah, I think this is so important. We get in the habit of doing the same event every year and just kind of rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And I think it's really important to have a recap after the show for all of the stakeholders that were there, either, the marketing team that put it together, the sales teams that manned it, the event team that were, on the floor, and have that recap to talk about how was the engagement, how were the giveaways, what was the traffic like? Maybe it's a, location of the booth needs to change. Were there good leads in conversation, or was it a bunch of tire kickers? And have this recap at the end of the event. And when you do that, I encourage you to schedule it before the event even happens, so that everybody's got it on their calendar to have this regroup for future events, but also just this exact trade show, because a lot of your trade shows are ones that come up annually. And I think it makes sense to evaluate that. Just because you've always done it doesn't mean it's a good thing to keep doing.
I like the idea of setting the meeting for the post-show evaluation beforehand, because then it makes the people who are there know that it's coming. So they're starting to look for, like, I gotta bring information to this meeting, as opposed to having the meeting afterwards and everybody's like, well, it kind of, like, so then they can start thinking about some of the things that are going to be asked of them on how it went. So I think that's really smart.
Yeah, that's a great point, is you have the people at the event mentally going, hey, maybe it would be good to be in a different location. I noticed booth over there was, had much more traffic. I also think having people walk around and seeing what their competitors are doing on the show floor is really valuable too, because then you see what you're up against and who has a lot of traffic and why. Not to do the exact same thing, but to at least know what your attendees are up against.
Okay, so last but not least, let's discuss giveaways. I think most of our clients, especially the newer clients, don't understand this full breadth of service that we provide. We always talk about the earlier you can get us into these meetings, the better, so we can ideate these things and help from beginning to end, from end to end. But most clients that first especially engage with us, they have a meeting, they're going to a show, somebody says we need giveaways, and then they call us. And so then they're like, we need a giveaway because we're going to this show. So, So as much as we're like, bring us into that meeting and then we can help with, some of the strategy, which is, by the way, for the clients on here, us coming into meetings to give strategy totally free. We don't charge for our time. It's just part of the service that we provide. So feel free to bring us in as an extension for those meetings. But with that being said, tons of products to give away, tons of people that you're competing with at the trade shows who also have giveaways. What are some things you think about, some strategies around separating yourself from everybody else to make an impression when it comes to the giveaway or the thing that you're going to give out at the booth?
Yeah, this is something that we're really fabulous at, but I also think is important to think about mostly what the audience is. Now, for some companies, the audience is the same all the time. So that's easy to kind of rinse and repeat from trade show to trade show. But I think thinking about the audience, where they're traveling to and from, is it a drive to or is it a fly to? Think about the bulkiness of the item. If I had been given this in Vegas, I might not have taken it with me. And a knife I might not have, because I might have had a carry-on. Like, things that you need to think about the audience, how they're getting there, what they're going to find valuable. The number one thing that I hear and have heard for 25 years now is, okay, we have a trade show, we want pens. And I mean, everybody needs a pen, right? We all have pens at our desk. We need a pen to write with. You come to a trade show, like many of us went to Vegas, and we didn't take pens because we knew we were going to get a million pens. So if you feel like you need pens, like, let's do something that's really cool so that your pen is the one everybody's talking about. Sometimes you do need those everyone's giving it away items, but maybe they can be a little bit different. We have done, Connie, who's on the call, we actually did a pen where when you click on it, the logo lights up. It's kind of interesting, a little different, but it's just a good writing pen. We have done a pen where there's a floaty in the center that floats back and forth. For those of you that remember, like the old scuba diver mermaid in the water, where we've made that super interactive. So there's ways to make it so that if you feel like you have to do something that everyone else is doing, that you're doing something that's a little different. But if you can, like, let's focus it towards the audience that's going to be there. We had an event that it was surrounding law enforcement people. And so we did waterproof notepads, like a notepad. It's really boring and, everybody does them, but this was a unique notepad. And we did a pen that writes in the water. So it's waterproof pen, fraud resistant. Like, okay, we had to do a pen, we needed a pen, but how can we do it a little bit different? So those are the things we like to think about, and think about it not just doing a bunch of things for people that are adult trick-or-treating, but actually doing things that are thoughtful of your specific client and something they would like, not what the masses would want.
Awesome. Okay, so really quickly, as we're up against time, but I do want to talk about this, the age-old question on figuring out the budget and how many people are going to be at the show, and the value in doing quality versus quantity when it comes to a trade show giveaway.
Oh, I'm all about a bunch of stuff that gets put in a landfill. Like, everybody in favor of that? Yeah. No. No one wants to do that. I get that there's sometimes the need to drive traffic, so you want to do something that's maybe a little more kitschy or just like attention grabbing. But the reality is, if you make something really cool that is going to appeal to the right people, you will have fewer what I call adult trick-or-treaters that are just coming and swiping and taking all those. I mean, the classic is a bouncy ball or a stress reliever. Like, don't just fill landfills just to try and get those adult trick-or-treaters to come in. Make sure it fits for the audience that you're going after. It's all about quality versus quantity. And we've given you some strategies on ways to do quantity, but still making it super interactive and, entertaining and engaging without it being just stuff that ends up in a landfill. That's the last thing we want from an environmental aspect, but also just like it's such a waste of your money. So I always would say quality over quantity, and you just maybe don't have a million of them sitting on your table, so someone just adult trick or treats.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Stacy, for sharing your 25 years, starting when you're 4 years old. Your 25
exactly.
years of your 25 years of experience, your invaluable insights. Is there anything else you want to add before we open up to Q&A? We don't have a lot of questions right now, but so if anybody's got some, I know some people have asked if they can get the recording of this. So we'll figure that out. Somebody, Jenny Winters, loves your top, so she wants pricing for your top. So great job on
Jenny,
that.
you're so nice to me.
So anything else you want to say, kind of closing words, anything that I left off that we didn't talk about before we open up some Q&A?
Yeah, I would say just this is trade shows are not a build it and they will come type of thing. So just having a great booth and not thinking about all of that, it's not necessarily going to get you good leads. So be mindful of that. And of course, I mean, this is obviously self-promoting, but like engage with us on how you can really do some cool activations. We can do some awesome stuff. And we'd love to be part of that conversation because it is truly what gets everyone on our team super excited about what they're doing and the things that are possible. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was going to be my closing thing too, is between our amazing team, the people that we have here, your account managers, Stacy, just engage with us. Don't feel like you are asking for something free or that we're not charging for. Like, we love, as you can tell, Stacy and I love these conversations. The reason Stacy is in the role that she's in is so she can help our team with marinating these great ideas, these big ideas. And so bring us in when you're having these planning sessions, and we would love to help. One question just came up from Ginny. She says, when in Vegas, this is going to put you on the spot because of all of the stuff you've seen, what were some of the raffle prizes that stood out at the booths?
Oh, interesting. Good question.
We've done incredible stuff. I mean, Carrie, who's now on our team, is an account manager who used to be one of our clients. Like, she always did. I mean, ranging from budgets, right? It could be so whatever the budget is, from a drone to like you said, a computer, an iPad, water bottle, like a high-end water bottle, especially, like there's just so many ideas around that. But do you have any?
Yeah, one of the things that really stood out to me, it is not name brand, but it is, I think, a great raffle prize. It's called the Jounce. It's a like seriously badass speaker that was it was at Jason's booth.
Okay.
That, I mean, I've seen a lot of Bluetooth speakers, right? And I was like, I need that. I want that. I need this in my life. It is so amazing. And so I don't think speakers are going away because the technology is still like improving and you're getting more bang for your buck. As a lot of the team pointed out, pizza ovens, they're definitely a thing. We did see a lot of shoes, a lot of things around shoes. So, that's a little harder to raffle, but it's totally doable. You just have to, they don't get it immediately, which I think sometimes is fine because it gives you an opportunity to follow up with them and give them an item that they get after the fact. So the key is low minimum, obviously, for raffle prizes. And we another one that we love is the Remarkable. It's a digital tablet of sorts, not tablet like iPad, but tablet like for taking notes, like a notepad. That is something we saw and I think will be pretty popular this year. High-end coolers, for sure. We saw a lot of interesting things around that. I think the Stanley and the new Owala brand, I think those are going to continue to be highly sought after just because they are harder to get. They have a high perceived value. And I just don't think they've fully saturated the market. Swiss Army came out with some new cool things that seems super unglamorous, but they had some new stuff that I think will make great raffle prizes, because it's maybe something that you wouldn't buy yourself, but that would be nice to have. So hopefully that gives you some ideas, Jenny. Yeah, Owalas have some really cool color combinations for sure. Actually, I think Owala has a cool one that would work for Hub with your logo. So we can definitely get you a mock-up of that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I would say real quick that we do have a couple factory partners that let you do one-off custom branded stuff. So like if you just had a raffle prize and you just want to do one and still have to be branded, we can totally do that. So we are 3 minutes past the hour, and so we want to let you guys go and get back to your day. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend this hour with us. We really appreciate it. Reach out to any of your account managers at Ideation if this spurred some ideas and you want to start a conversation. Otherwise, we will talk to you next time. Thank you.